Welcome friends for this session, and I'm Shashank Shrivastava. As you know, I'm giving the material science course. So we had discussed in the previous lecture about the iron ore and how it is processed to get pure iron, and a little bit about steels. So now in this lecture we will discuss further about steels and a very important thing called the iron carbon diagram also. So we move forward now. So steel, what is the significance? The steel is the oldest material of construction as known by the human being. It can be produced in several alloyed varieties and responds to various kind of heat treatments. And the cutting properties of this material have been exploited to create cutting tools which wear very little. So from earlier times also, from the primitive ages, this steel was used for hunting and all those purposes. It is very sharp, so that's why we are using it as cutting tools also even nowadays. So applications of steel, everywhere it is used. You can see in the common life applications also. So machine parts, like there are gears, there are shafts, bearings, everything. Machine bodies, railways and railroad rolling stocks, ships, bridges, boilers, so many examples are there. The requirements of steel very largely and more often than not involve consideration of their tensile strength, impact strength and hardness. So the properties of steel are such that makes it so excellent for different kinds of uses. So but this steel, it's of various varieties, and the varieties come in mainly due to the carbon content in that. So there is the importance of the carbon content. So now we can discuss this. The carbon content of steel plays an important role in deciding its properties. Like I told you earlier, properties of steel vary and they are very much dependent on carbon content. If no carbon is present in iron, it crystallizes in form of ferrite, which is BCC soft material and very ductile. What is BCC actually? It is body centered cubic. Suppose you have a cube, then the atom, if it is at the center of the cube, then it is body centered. So that's what it means, body centered cubic. And this ferrite material is very soft, and due to its softness is very ductile. Pure iron without impurities is perhaps used only in laboratories, because pure iron is very soft and its strength is low, but it may be as costly as gold. Pure iron is low but not very strong. With addition of carbon, increasing amounts of cementite like ferrite we discussed, there is another thing called the cementite, which is given by the chemical formula Fe3C. It's cementite. So this has hardness property and its strength is also more. So with addition of carbon, this cementite is formed and it crystallizes in the structure. Cementite, like I told, is very hard and it reduces ductility considerably. Now in the table you can see how ductility, which is measured as percentage elongation of steel, is reduced with increasing amount of carbon. See here, pure iron, its elongation is around 42%. Then 0.2% of carbon, elongation reduces to 37%, then 0.4 it goes down to 31%, 0.6 it goes down to 22%, further 0.8% of carbon it goes down to 17% elongation, and finally 1.2% carbon content gives us only 3% elongation. So it comes down to 3%, elongation comes down to 3%, and 1.2% is the maximum limit, because after that it is no more steel, it is cast iron. When carbon is as much as 6.67% in iron, the entire structure crystallizes as cementite and is not at all usable commercially, because it neither has ductility nor is machinable. The carbon content in steel serves to classify steel according to its application. So we can vary this carbon content in steel depending upon the type of application we want. The tensile strength of pure iron is around 250 Newton per millimeter square, which increases to about 850 Newton per millimeter square at a carbon percentage of 0.8. So as told earlier, if the carbon percentage is increasing with time, we can see that the ductility goes away and hardness and strength becomes more. At a very low carbon content, the entire metal is made up of ferrite grains which are soft and ductile, and I had discussed it earlier also. As the percentage of carbon increases more and more, material is made up of perlite. This is a substance, another substance, different one. It is a mixture of ferrite and cementite. And why its name is perlite? Because it's a substance that appears to have the color of mother of pearl, hence its name perlite. So now we see that about 0.4% of carbon in steel, perlite appears to be almost half the area viewed through the microscope. So around 0.4% carbon in steel, perlite is almost half of the entire material. At this level of carbon, the tensile strength is about 540 to 550 Newton per millimeter square. So it's in between, like we discussed earlier. The ferrite one was 250 around, and the further moving around 800 it was. So it's a middle one, 540 Newton per millimeter square. At 0.8% carbon, almost total area consists of perlite. So like discussed earlier, at 0.8% it is only perlite. So it's has a strength of 850 per Newton per millimeter square. So the table here gives us the range of carbon and the application. So 0.1 to 0.8% of carbon in steel, where we can use that, it's used for general engineering purposes. Then from 0 to 1.2% of carbon, it is about wear resistant steel. So we get the wear resistance steel in this range. From 1.3 to 2.2% carbon, it is not used normally. And from 2.4 to 4.2% it is cast iron and basically used for casting. Now we discuss the plain carbon steel, what it is. So it contains carbon as principal alloying element. That's why its name is also plain carbon steel. And it may contain a small amount of impurities such as manganese, sulfur, phosphorus, silicon and nickel. Out of these two, the phosphorus and sulfur have negative or adverse effects, so they have to be kept minimum as low as about 0.05%. So now we discuss about the classification of steel in terms of the microstructure. So there is a term known as eutectoid, and eutectoid steel is there. And what does it signify? It shows that ideally 0.83% of carbon is present in the steel, and it has entirely lamellar perlite structure. Like I told you earlier, around 0.8% only perlite is present. So eutectoid steel is about 0.83% of carbon. Fully perlite structure appears in all steels containing 0.8% carbon. Moreover, many alloying elements influence the carbon contents of eutectoid steels. So other alloying elements are also there, they will also influence eutectoid steel. For instance, manganese to the extent of 1% reduces carbon in the eutectoid to 0.7%. So if we are at the eutectoid stage of 0.83% and we add 1% of manganese, then the carbon will reduce to 0.7% because of the reaction taking place. Then after the eutectoid, there is hypoeutectoid. So this word itself gives us the meaning. What is hypo? Hypo means we are going towards the lower side of 0.8%. So this is about carbon between 0.08% to just below 0.83% in a steel. There are presence of grains of ferrite together with grains of perlite. So due to this movement towards the left side of 0.83% carbon, now ferrite is also there in the microstructure in addition to the perlite. That means we have cementite and plus ferrite. And more carbon means more strength and less ductility, and less carbon means less strength and more ductility. Then the final one is the hypereutectoid steels. It contains carbon which is in excess of 0.8%, as we can know from the name itself. The structure contains perlite and cementite. Like in case of hypoeutectoid, when we move towards the left, it contains perlite and ferrite. Now in this case, it is containing perlite and cementite, because towards the right portion of 0.8% carbon line, there is cementite. Cementite forms along the grain boundaries of perlite as an intergranular network and increases the brittleness. So as we are moving towards the right side of the 0.8% carbon line, the ductility goes away and brittleness creeps in. So after the classification based on microstructure, we can see the classification based on carbon percentage range. So there are different kinds, like the dead mild steel is there. So in dead mild steel, carbon range for a steel is between 0.07 to 0.15%, meaning very low amount of carbon. These steels are highly ductile, thus can withstand large amount of plastic deformation through cold working. Since they are highly ductile, they have high plasticity also. So for what purpose they are used? They are used for solid drawn tubes. Then the second one is the mild steel according to the carbon percentage, and here the range of carbon is from 0.15 to 0.25%, and this steel does not harden appreciably when quenched. When quenching takes place, it will not harden. What is quenching actually? This steel will be put into very cold water suddenly, so that process is known as quenching. And this steel, mild steel, has got very good weldability. So welding process can take place very easily in case of mild steel, and that's why it is the commonest of the steels which are used for structural purposes. Further moving on, and there is the medium carbon steel, which contains carbon between 0.25 and 0.55%, and they respond to suitable types of heat treatments. Further is the high carbon steel, which contains carbon between 0.55 to 0.9%, and here we get very high hardness, and it is achieved through heat treatment. This develops extreme resistance to wear and hence are good for tooling applications. So we are getting one application here, very important application, that this high carbon steel will be the one which will be used for tools. They can be used for tooling purposes. So now we come to the iron carbon system phase diagram, which is very important because through this we can get to know that by the variation of carbon percentage and with time we can see how different alloys can be made, and for different applications these can be used. So this iron carbon system phase diagram is very important. So combination of iron and carbon make a series of alloys which includes a number of steels and cast iron. Also, we all know that iron and carbon we have been discussing earlier also. These are the two which are making up the various kind of steels and even cast iron. For steels, as I told earlier, it is only up to 1.2% carbon. So anything beyond 1.2% carbon is not steel. And cast iron, it is between 2.3% to 4.2%. Carbon atom dia is 1.54 angstrom, which is lesser than the iron atom dia, which is 2.56 angstrom. So that's why, because of the lesser dia of carbon atom, it can dissolve interstitially in iron. Angstrom is a unit which is about 10 to the power minus 10 meters. Pure molten iron solidifies at temperature of about 1539 degrees centigrade in the BCC structure, that is body centered cubic structure. At 1400 degrees centigrade, on further cooling, this structure changes into face centered cubic. Like earlier I told you, body centered cubic, this is face centered, meaning if there is a cube, then the atoms are present in the face of every side. And again at 910 degrees centigrade, this material or the pure molten iron is back to body centered cubic. So these three structures in reverse order, if we take from the room temperature, then they are named as alpha, gamma and delta. So the first one up to 910 degrees centigrade, this is one is the alpha, then the gamma one comes to around 1400 degrees centigrade, and the final one delta is the one about 1539 degrees centigrade. The alpha iron is ferromagnetic but loses its ferromagnetism when heated above 770 degrees centigrade. So this temperature, most of us study about that. It's a very important temperature. It is also known as the Curie temperature, above which the magnetic material loses its magnetism. So the non-magnetic alpha iron was earlier known as the beta iron, meaning above 770 degrees centigrade, which we discussed. It was known as beta iron, but then X-ray studies were done and it showed that the structures of alpha and delta are same. So we cannot say that alpha is same as beta iron. The gamma iron is the structure of closest packing. That means austenite also it is known, which I will discuss in the further slides. While alpha and beta irons are not so close packed. There will be average changes of dimensions at transitions from alpha to gamma and gamma to beta, because of this only, because of the close and not so close packing. So here we can see a curve which gives us the cooling of pure iron with a steady rate of heat loss. So with time, temperature is varying of the pure iron. So you can see that we start from the 1539 degrees centigrade temperature, which I told you earlier, and in this phase it is pure liquid molten iron, and it stays there for a certain time, meaning the temperature doesn't vary for a certain time. Like for example, if you keep hot water also in a vessel, a steel vessel, then it takes certain time to for its temperature to come down. So here is also the same case, and then it comes down, but always in a linear manner. All these you can see the curve, all these are straight lines, so it's a linear curve. So from liquid it changes to delta type of iron, which is body centered cubic structure, and it is around 1400 degrees centigrade. Further it continues up to 910 degrees centigrade. When cooling is taking place, 1400 to 910 degrees centigrade, gamma iron comes up, which is face centered cubic, and this one is non-magnetic. It doesn't have magnetic properties. And from 910 degrees centigrade to 768 degree, it is still non-magnetic, but it is known as alpha, and because this microstructure is changing, it is becoming body centered again. And from 768 till the bottom, meaning up to, you can say, the lowest temperature or 0 degree, you can say that this one is alpha again, and it is BCC type, but now it is magnetic. So this magnetic property remains till 768 degrees centigrade, but after that this becomes non-magnetic, and that's why this temperature is also known as Curie temperature, discovered by Curie, 768 degree centigrade. So this is the process of the cooling of pure iron with a steady rate of heat loss. So now we discuss the iron carbide phase diagram. So alloys in iron carbon systems also undergo complex structural changes which play an important role in deciding their characteristics. So if there are alloys, then obviously the properties will change and we will get different types of things, and we can use them for different kinds of purposes. Strictly speaking, the diagram refers to the iron carbide system, but still the phase relationship can be expressed in terms of carbon percentage. Hence the name is also given as iron carbon diagram. Changes that occur in iron carbon system are illustrated in iron carbon phase diagram, which is given in the figure. Iron carbon diagram is divided in various phase fields characterized by the existence of one or mixture of two phases. So there may be different kinds of phases, meaning solid, liquid, so or a mixture of both. So here in the diagram, this is one diagram, you can see the liquids above which only molten metal in liquid state can exist is identified as A, B, C, D. So in the curve you can see a portion A, B, C, D. So above this there is only liquid, no solid portion is there. You have to see carefully in the curve or graph. Iron and dissolved carbon exist in the liquid state. So what are the constituents in this liquid state? Iron and dissolved carbon. The solidus below which iron carbon exists in solid state is given by the portion A, E, P, G, C, H. So see carefully in the diagram, the alphabets, you can see A, E, P, G, C, H. So below this portion everything is solid. That's why this line is also known as the solidus line. Between these two lines there exist mixtures of solid and liquid. Like you can see the gamma plus L. That means gamma refers to austenite and L refers to the liquid. So it's a mixture there. Solid and liquid both are there. Alpha and gamma phases can dissolve carbon and the solubility changes with temperature. So you can see from the diagram that alpha and gamma. Alpha is also known as the ferrite and gamma is the austenite. So these can dissolve carbon, but they dissolve carbon to different ranges. So the solubility here changes with the temperature. So you can see this is the temperature is on the y-axis and the carbon percentage is on the x-axis. The solid solution of carbon in alpha iron is called ferrite, while the solid solution of carbon in gamma iron is known as austenite, as I told you earlier. Ferrite and austenite are also designated as alpha and gamma respectively. The solubility of carbon in austenite is up to 2%, while ferrite can dissolve carbon only up to 0.025%. The carbon solubility in austenite changes along GK. So there is a line you can see in the graph, GK. So along this, the carbon solubility is varying in austenite phase, and along Ln in the ferrite. Ln also you can see in the figure, it is marked there. So the solubility of carbon varies along this line Ln in case of the ferrite structure. Beyond point C on the solidus line, the compound Fe3C, which I told you earlier is known as cementite, that separates. So take the point C in the figure. Cementite, as you have been told, is hard and brittle, whereas ferrite on the extreme left of phase diagram is soft and ductile. Austenite also transforms into cementite along the line GK and into ferrite along the line IK. The line IK and GK are also respectively designated as A3 and ACM. Austenite is unstable below the lines A3 and ACM. Unstable means it can change to different forms, and especially if carbon content is less than 0.8%. Austenite at this point begins to transform into ferrite on cooling and gets enriched in carbon along line A3 until point K is reached. So IK is the line. It is getting enriched in carbon while cooling. Similarly, for carbon content between 0.8% and 2%, iron carbide will precipitate, and carbon in austenite will vary until point K, that is carbon 0.8%, is reached. At point K, austenite will transform into perlite. So you can see here the 0.8 and the 2% range, meaning between the point G and the point K, this variation takes place. So when we move from the point G to the point K, the temperature is going down. You can see the cooling is taking place and the carbon percentage is also going down. And finally we reach a point K, where this austenite is getting transformed into perlite, which is a mixture of ferrite and cementite. So it is a characteristic, this perlite has a characteristic, it has got lamellar structures composed of alternate platelets of ferrite and cementite. Transformation reaction at K, where in a single solid phase splits into two phases, is termed the eutectoid. So this is an important term, we discussed it earlier also. Eutectoid point, 0.83% carbon point. So here the transformation reaction takes place, where what happens, that single solid phase was there, austenized, that gamma 1 is single solid phase, and it is getting split into two phases. What are those two phases? We will see here, ferrite and cementite. So austenite is equal to ferrite plus cementite, and this transformation is taking place at 0.83% carbon quantity, and this is also known as the eutectoid point. So slightly above 110 degrees centigrade, suppose we move up point C in the figure on solidus, so the eutectic transformation takes place. Like we have the eutectoid point, similarly we have eutectic point. So this eutectic point is given by the liquid state at C. It contains 4.3% carbon, and this liquid begins to transform into two solid phases. So here also the same thing is happening, that one phase is changing to two phases, but here the liquid phase is also changing to solid phase, and that solid phase is given by leduberite, that is cementite and austenite mixture. One phase is called leduberite, which is eutectic mixture of austenite and cementite, while the other phase is cementite, as I told you. On further cooling, eutectic austenite transforms gradually into cementite. The same line which I have mentioned earlier, the GK line. So austenite is transforming gradually into cementite, changing composition along GK until it changes into what? Perlite and cementite at the eutectide point K. So there is one more transformation, like we discussed the eutectic and the eutectoid. So there is the peritectic also. Peritectic transformation, this occurs in steel having carbon up to 0.55% only. So here the carbon quantity is quite less. This transformation occurs at point P. In the figure you have to find the point P, and it is characterized by transformation of liquid and solid phase into a single solid phase. The transformation occurring at P is represented by the following equation, that is liquid 0.5% carbon plus delta iron gives us gamma iron, which is austenite, and it contains 0.18% carbon. So here you see the iron carbon phase diagram. This is a very important diagram with respect to the steels, and we can know about the different types of alloys and how, due to the carbon percentage variation, different types of steels can be made. So suppose I start from a point around 1539 degrees centigrade. On the left side you can see that temperature Fahrenheit scale, and in the centigrade scale it is about 1539 degrees centigrade. Suppose the carbon present is around 0.4%. So from there, if we start the cooling, it will go down to around 1400 degrees centigrade, and further upon cooling it will come down to the line which is known as the IK. So it will come to the point I, and further it will move along the line IK and come to the point K, where the austenite transforms into pearlite, or that is the mixture of ferrite and cementite. And this point K is also known as the eutectite point, which contains around 0.83% carbon. So this is one case how cooling is taking place. Now suppose we take another case where the carbon percentage is different. Suppose we start at a carbon percentage of 3% of carbon is there. So you can come and in the middle of the graph and see 3% carbon. So if we start cooling from there, what happens that it will move along the line GC, and there is the eutectic point where beyond that 4.3%, and when we are cooling, then we see a mixture of austenite plus cementite plus ledubite. Further cooling will take place, it will move along the line GK. So the GK is the line, meaning from 2.06% of carbon to 0.83% of carbon. So here also the two different phases are there, that is the gamma austenite pure and the austenite plus cementite plus ledubite is there. And finally we reach to the point K, and similar thing will happen where the austenite will again come down to two phases, that is ferrite and cementite, or better it is known as pearlite. So this is the process. There are different lines in this depending upon the carbon percentage in the steel. You can see how the cooling will take place and what material or what kind of steel will be getting. So this is the iron carbon diagram. You can study that further, and in case of any query you can ask me. This is very important in terms of your deciding the quality of a steel and all. So in this session we have discussed about the steel and its formation, and further we moved on to the iron carbon diagram, the applications of steels. All these things we have discussed. The iron carbon diagram is very important to know about the varieties of steel. So this has been completed in this lecture, and further we will take up other things in the upcoming lectures. Thank you very much.